Heyo everybody, Haku here, and with Pokemon Sun and Moon releasing in just maybe a weekish, or maybe more than a weekish, heck, I don't even know when this video is going to be posted, but either way, with this going, I've had this in the works for a while. I want to do my top 25 favorite Pokemon from generations 1 through 6 before the new Pokemon come in and totally throw that list off. So I may do this in a year or so after I've got some experience playing Sun and Moon and just do a video on my favorite Pokemon introduced in Sun and Moon, or maybe a full list of my favorite Pokemon taking Sun and Moon into account, because I know there are a few of them that I absolutely love the designs and I think they're going to be some of my all-time favorites, because right now Gen 7 is just looking so strong. It looks like it could be possibly my favorite gen so far. So a little bit of my backstory, my history with Pokemon to sort of set this up, and it's not going to be like all Gen 1, but I feel like I had a lot of Gen 1s in my top 25. But basically the thing is, like, Pokemon came to America or whatever when I was like maybe 4-ish, 3 or 4, and I think before I even went into kindergarten I got like an original Game Boy with red and blue, and I played through that, and then when Gold and Silver came out I got those, and so on and so forth. And you know how like every kid has that like one cartoon or one series they watch a lot more than the others? I watched a lot of other shit, but Pokemon was probably like the #1 thing that I had the most stuff for, everything like that. So I have been following the series essentially since the very, very beginning when I was a little kid. So yeah, this is my favorites, taking into account that I have been there when they were each introduced. I figured I would throw that in there so it would make a little bit more sense why there were more maybe Gen 1 or 2 Pokemon that are just really strong memories from my childhood that I really liked. And I've said before that my favorite generation is Gen 2, but the generation I'm most familiar with, that I've played the most, was Gen 3. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get into this top 25 list. So I hope you guys enjoy. My 25th favorite Pokemon of all time is Ivysaur. Now for me, in Generation 1, when I first played through as a little kid, I think I used Charmander, but ever since then, I don't know, I've always had an attachment to Bulbasaur. I've used Bulbasaur in pretty much every time I've played through the Gen 1 games. He's like my first go-to starter, so I have used it a lot. And really, Venusaur has a cool design, but I think out of the line, Ivysaur's design is my favorite. I really, really like how it looks. I love the grass poison typing, of course, because poison is my favorite typing and grass is a close second. So I love the design. Also, from Bulbasaur in the anime as a kid, it really has a lot of strong childhood memories. So between strong childhood memories and continuing memories as I continue to use the Bulbasaur line, Ivysaur definitely, he's not my absolute favorite, but out of 721 Pokemon to be number 25, it's pretty dang good. My 24th favorite Pokemon is Sylveon. Now, Sylveon is one that was kind of recently introduced, but ever since it was introduced, I love the design. It's just really, really cute. I love the flesh ribbons. I just think the ribbons like that are kind of technically made of its flesh. It's so weird, but it's just cute. And another thing I really like about it that I have from the beginning, in this weird way, it reminds me of Cubey the Incubator, who is probably my favorite anime character of all time, or at least possibly my favorite anime character. So the reminding me of Cubey probably leads into me liking it even more. And another reason that I really liked it was that when Gen 6 came around, a lot of the old Pokemon that were converted into fairy types are Pokemon that I liked, but like pretty much all of the new fairies I thought were pretty bad. I thought Swirlix and Slurpuff were pretty bad. Spritzy had potential that was ruined with Aromatisse, so I didn't really like the fairies. And then Sylveon was like this shining ray of hope for the fairy type, that it was a really good, cute design. So that's the reason, my 24th favorite, Sylveon. Next up is another evolution. It's going to be number 23 on my list, Flareon. And Flareon, for me, it has kind of bad stats, but I've still always loved using it. I've tried to find ways to work around that. It's just a Pokemon that I personally have used and have just loved since early on in my Pokemon years. And I think a big reason for that is because I have always had, and I know there's a weird fact about myself that you guys are probably going to be like, okay, I didn't really expect that of him. But I've always had Pomeranians, like those little dogs. Those are what I've always had. So it does remind me of my dogs. So I was like, okay, I really like Flareon because of that, I think. I think that's a big part of it. And just the design's cute. I've liked using it for a while. So yeah, it has a special place in my heart as number 23. Next up, we keep the Gen 1 train rolling with Sandslash at number 22 on the list. Sandslash is another one that I've really liked since I was a kid. I've always been a fan of Sandtrue since I was a kid as well. It's one that I enjoy using. I use it, Razar in our Black 2 Nuzlocke is one of the staples of our Nuzlocke, really. So I really enjoy it. The design and everything looks really cool. And you know, there are these few episodes of anything that'll stick out to you. One of the Pokemon anime episodes from my childhood that I just remember a lot and really sticks out to me is this one where the Sandtrue was stuck between the rocks on an Onyx's body, if either of you remember that. So, or if any of you remember that. Like, that is one of the anime episodes that really sticks out in my memory. So that is probably another reason why I like Sandslash so much, but I think the biggest thing is I love the design, and now we've got the Alolan form, which I think looks amazing. I honestly might like the Alolan Sandshrew more just because it looks like an igloo, but it's something that I have always really loved in Pokemon is Sandslash. Gen 1 train continues rolling with yet another from Gen 1 being Beedrill. Beedrill, again, is something that I have just personally always loved since my childhood. I think its design looks so cool, and even though it was like early game, even though it was kind of weak, I remember as a kid I would always carry Beedrill towards the late game with me, and even replaying some of the original games as an adult now, I love carrying Beedrill through the game just because, like, it's kind of weak in some ways, but like get Twin Needle and it can be pretty useful, and I really love using it. So that, for me, is the reason that Beedrill is number 21 on the list. My 20th favorite Pokemon of all time is Serperior, Musneck. So you guys know from the Black 2 Nuzlocke that Serperior is kind of like our mascot a bit. And I just love the design so much. I love its arrogance, its tiny little arms. I love it so much. It's my favorite Gen 5 starter by a million miles. I just think it looks so cool and so cute at the same time. I love it. The only thing that like keeps it from being even higher on the list or way higher on the list is that other than our Nuzlocke, I actually don't use it in teams very often just because it's kind of got a weak move pool and its stats aren't great either. Like it's just one of those where I love its design so much, and I wish I used it more, but I don't really use it that often, even though I love the design. So that's where I am with number 20 on our list of favorite Pokemon, Serperior. Next up is the only legendary on the list, my favorite legendary, Rayquaza, coming in at number 19. Rayquaza has been my favorite legendary ever since the original Ruby and Sapphire came out and I first played it. I just loved getting Rayquaza, and I thought it was the coolest Pokemon in the world. And like, I was just so obsessed with it being just the best Pokemon for the longest time. I loved the movie with it and Deoxys. So now that I'm older, I still love Rayquaza. It's not quite so high on my list, like it's not at the very top, but out of 721 Pokemon, that's pretty good. So number 19, Rayquaza. My 18th favorite Pokemon is Quilava. Now, Cyndaquil is my go-to Johto starter, and Johto is my favorite region, and I've always loved Quilava because the design has this combination where I feel like it's both cute and badass, and I am the hugest Quilava fan. I think it does look better than Typhlosion. I really love Typhlosion as well, but I like Quilava more. So Quilava made it on the list as my 18th favorite. Next up at number 17 on my list of favorite Pokemon is Cacturne. Now Cacturne just looks so cool. I love the design. I also love actually using it. I think its typing is really, really interesting. And I also love the possible moves that it can learn. I have really always enjoyed having Cacturne as a staple on my team if I am going into battle against somebody else, like a friend or something. I always love using Cacturne. It's a very, I don't know, it's one of those Pokemon that I feel like you can do a variety of different things with depending on how you set up its moveset. And it's just really, really useful in battle. And pairing that with loving the design, Cacturne definitely deserves to be at the number 17 spot. At number 16 on the list of my favorite Pokemon is my favorite Sinnoh starter, Luxray. And I know a lot of you are probably like, it's not a starter. Well, here's what I would always do in Sinnoh. I always really disliked all three of the Sinnoh starters. So at the beginning of the game, I would go out to the first route or whatever, catch a Shinx, and then just throw my starter in the PC box or something, and use Shinx as an electric type starter. So I have always been a massive, massive fan of Luxray. I love its Pokedex entries and background. I love its design. Its design is so awesome. I like its moveset. It could be better. One thing, possibly the only thing that I could say is a downside, is that it's not electric dark, when in my opinion, with that design and with its moveset, with bite and crunch and everything, it should have been electric dark all along. There is no, it makes no sense to me whatever. This is one of those typings that I just don't get. I have never understood why Luxray isn't electric dark. Even with its backstory and its Pokedex entries, it makes sense that it would be electric dark. But yeah, that's my complaint with one of my favorites. My boy Luxray deserves better. So yeah, number 60 on the list, Luxray. Number 15 on my list, getting into the top 15, is Scolipede. You guys know I said I love poison types, they're my favorite, and I love Scolipede's design. I've loved it since I was a fan of it in Black and White, but then Black 2 and White 2, I was a real big fan of it. I love Scolipede. Like when Roxy came around and we had Roxy and Scolipede, it was just so freaking cool to me. I love it's like a little centipede horse. It's just so awesome. And I remember way back years, at least 2 or 3 years ago, I would say, I was on a Pixelmon Minecraft server, again, a long time ago, back when that was still interesting to me. And I used a Scolipede as my mascot, rode around on it everywhere. Scolipede is I love it so much. And another reason that I love it is there's gonna be a weird reason, so brace yourselves. But yeah, Scolipede is one half of my favorite Pokophilia ship between Scolipede x Roxy. Yes, Scolipede x Roxy. Good stuff. So, yeah, I just love it so much. So, top 15, number 15 is Scolipede. Number 14 on the list is Mawile. Now, Mawile is one that I really, really liked as a kid. Like I said, I played through, I think Ruby or Emerald is probably the Pokemon game I've played the most, put the most time into, replayed the most amount of times, and of that game, I remember as a kid in Ruby, I would always have to get a Mawile. I completely loved it, and even now, I still love it. I love that it got the Fairy typing added on when Fairy came around, and it's Mega. Not a fan of its Mega, but I'm pretty much not a fan of any of the Megas, nearly none of them. If you guys don't know, and if you've been around for the channel, you probably know, I thought Mega Evolution was kind of a dumb gimmick, and I wasn't a fan of it. I wish we had just got normal evolution. So I wish that we had got a normal evolution for Mawile instead of a Mega Evolution. So yeah, that's the one disappointment with my 14th favorite out of a ton of Pokemon. Next up, number 13 on the list is my childhood favorite, Scyther. Back when there was only one generation, Gen 1 was all that there was, 151 Pokemon, Scyther was my absolute favorite. I remember in kindergarten and first grade, we would go out and play on the playground, and everybody would be shouting out what Pokemon they wanted to be, and I would always be Scyther. And Scyther was the coolest coolest Pokemon to me, and it still is up there. I love it so much more than Scyther or Caesar. I've heard different ones of you pronounce it different ways. But yeah, I've always liked it more than the evolution. I think it's one of the best designs that Pokemon has done. It's not very good at giving hugs or anything, but I mean, it's so cool. I've always liked the Mantis type designs anyway, so of course I'm going to end up liking Scyther. So yeah, that's why Scyther is number 13 on the list. He is my ultimate childhood favorite. Number 12 on the list is Shaymin. Shaymin is my favorite mythical Pokemon, at least, yeah, mythicals, that's what they're called. So, I love Shaymin so much. It is so cute. It's possibly the cutest in my opinion. And I actually credit Shaymin kind of with helping me to really get back into Pokemon when I was starting to fall out of it. Because like the first 3 generations I just was so into, and then you hit that age where everybody's like, oh, people don't watch cartoons anymore, people don't play video games anymore, and you sort of hit that and start to fall out of it. But then one day on TV I saw that the movie with Shaymin and Giratina was on, and I watched it and I loved it. And that movie with Shaymin and Giratina is really what cemented me back into Pokemon, and I really love Shaymin. I liked Giratina, but Shaymin for me was like the huge awesome thing with that movie, and I've been in love with it ever since. Number 11 for me is another Gen 6 Pokemon, and this one is Dragalge, of course. Now Dragalge for me, I've said before that Poison was my favorite type, so when I learned that there was going to be, or that there was a Poison Dragon in Gen 6, in X and Y, I was just through the roof with excitement. And to this day, Dragalge is like one of the few, like, I didn't like Gen 6 very much. I think that Gen 6 failed in a lot of ways. Callow was awesome, but the Mega Evolutions were a little bit of a disappointment for me, and the actual new Pokemon were mostly a disappointment to me. There are some very good ones in there, though, as you've seen from, like, maybe one already being on the list. So, out of all the good designs, this is probably, I guess, my second favorite Gen 6 Pokemon. It is so cool. I love the type combo. Poison Dragon for me, I think it has like 6 or 7 resistances. It is just such an interesting combination. I've always had a soft spot in my heart ever since it came around for Dragalge. I love as well that it gets water type moves. I love it. It's kind of a pretty badass design too. I like the design. So yeah, number 11, Dragalge. And let's get into our top 10. First up in our top 10, number 10 is Kabutops. Kabutops again is one of my all-time favorite designs, and it pretty much has always been one of my favorite designs. Like, I've loved the design, and I've loved actually using it on teams ever since I was a kid, and I still like to use it on teams. So yeah, it does have that crazy grass weakness, but I've always been a massive fan of Kabutops, and I am still a massive fan of Kabutops. So my first on my top 10, Kabutops. My 9th favorite Pokemon of all time is Victreebel, and I know a lot of you are probably like really confused, like Victreebel? Out of everything you would have picked, Victreebel is your 9th favorite. 721 Pokemon out there, Victreebel is your favorite, or your 9th favorite. And yeah, I loved it in the anime as a kid, and I know I said that Scyther was my childhood favorite, but like looking back, Victreebel was also one that is just deeply ingrained in my childhood, where like in all of the Gen 1 games, all of the Gen 2 games, in all the Pokemon Stadium games, even if it didn't make sense for what team I was using, I somehow, someway always had a Victreebel on my team. I don't know what it was, but as a kid I was like, I need it. I always have to have Victreebel on my team. So Victreebel for me is just one of those things where I always used it. It was just always there for me, and Victreebel, to this day, no matter how goofy the design may look compared to some of the more modern Pokemon or anything like that, I still have a huge love for Victreebel. My 8th favorite Pokemon of all time is probably my favorite from Gen 6, and that is the Smexy Furbait Waifu, Smexy Furbait Waifumon, Braixen. So Braixen for me, yeah, it's Smexy Furbait Waifumon. Also, I really like the design just sincerely without any of the whole waifu stuff. Like, it's a really cool design, and I love the Greninja line, so to have something that I think is even better than that, to where that's not even in my top 25, because I used it a bit, but I didn't use it anywhere near as much as I used the Delphox line. And even though I really, really do like Delphox, Braixen far, far outclasses Delphox for me. It is just one of the most adorable designs. I love it so much. I love the stick sticking out of its tail. And the only thing I could possibly say against Braixen is I do wish that maybe Delphox was a little bit better. I wish that maybe Braixen itself had the Psychic type one stage earlier, so that I could just throw an Eviolite on it and keep it where it is. So yeah, I love Braixen, and it's my 8th favorite. Next up is our sexy bug waifu, and that would be Leavanny at number 7, I think we're at. At number 7 in the list, we have Leavanny. And Leavanny, I love the type combo of bug and grass. I really love the design. I really liked it, and the anime on Ash's team. So yeah, there are a ton of things I love about Leavanny. We even used it in our Nuzlocke for the channel, but alas, waifu Hadame Nui, gone too soon, forever in our hearts. But yeah, Leavanny for me, I think the biggest reason why I can say that I love Leavanny is that it's one of those where, like, every generation I said there were these Pokemon that I would end up using again and again. For me, that's Leavanny. For me, almost every single time I've played through Black 2, White 2, or Black and White, even if I don't carry it with me very long, even if after like the 3rd or 4th gym I swap it out for something a bit stronger on my team, I just always end up using Leavanny. Even if I don't use it all the way, I still end up having Leavanny on the team. So that for me is probably the reason why it's that strongly embedded with me. My 6th favorite Pokemon of all time is Grovyle. Now, Grovyle is part of my favorite starter line. Trico is my favorite starter. I almost put Trico on the line, but on the list, but I was like, now let's do Grovyle instead, because I only wanted one from each evolutionary line, so it wasn't all crowded with stuff. Because if it wasn't one from every evolutionary line, Trico, Sceptile, and Grovyle would probably all 3 be up here. I love the entire line. But for me, I chose Grovyle just because I think the design strikes a good balance between being really cool looking and yet also staying a bit simple and not going too overboard. I think that Sceptile's design is maybe a little bit... It's still great. Like I said, it would probably still be on the list if I was doing multiple ones from evolutionary lines, but it's a little bit more complex than Grovyle, and I think Grovyle's simplicity makes it even better than Sceptile design-wise. I just love Grovyle's design, and I really always have. And that's another thing. I love all 3 Hoenn starter, like the Hoenn starters. I love all 3 of their evolutionary lines. I've used all 3 a bunch, but Grovyle sticks out of the 9 of them as probably by far my favorite. So it definitely deserves this spot for me at number 6. First up in our top 5, my 5th favorite Pokemon of all time is another one that I feel like you guys may find a bit weird, but for me it's Sneasel. I have always considered Sneasel to be like definitely one of my top 10 of all time. It's always been a personal favorite ever since Gen 2. I just love the typing, and I'm not even a big Ice type fan, mostly because I don't think there are that many Ice types I particularly like, but Sneasel breaks through that sort of stigma I have against Ice types, and I really love it. I love how one ear is just the feathery red stuff, and I don't know, I like Weavile a lot as well, but Sneasel for me has always looked way better than Weavile. So yeah, I think the design, again, is both cool and cute, so definitely number 5, 5th favorite Pokemon of all time is going to be Sneasel. My 4th favorite Pokemon of all time is the Ghost-type Bannette. Now, Bannette is another one whose design is just both very, very cute to me and very just awesome and cool looking. And also, I feel like I really love the backstory and Pokedex entries for Bannette. It's just one of those that, man, I really liked Shuppet and Bannette when Ruby and Sapphire first came out, and again, like I said, the games that I probably spent the most time with were Ruby and Sapphire. So Bannette for me is one that I've used a lot, one that I really enjoy using, and I don't know, even its Mega Evolution is one of the few Megas that I really genuinely like. I almost wish that its Mega Evolution was an actual real evolution, but yeah, I love Bannette. So I think that it deserves its number 4 spot on my list. My third favorite Pokemon of all time is kind of a more recent one, and that's Xiao. Now Xiao, the story is like, I always disliked fighting types. Like way back from when I first started with Pokemon in Generation 1, I was always really like unattracted to fighting types as Pokemon. I just didn't like using them. I didn't like the designs very often. I think Hitmonlee was the only fighting type that I really liked using. And then Xiao came in and just stole my heart. It is beautiful. It is graceful. It is majestic. It is powerful. I love Xiao. I love its little arm danglies, its little sleeves. Just everything about it is just gorgeous. I love the design beyond anything. I love the moveset and its stats. It is so fun to use, and it is just it's gotta be at least number 3 on the list. Like, it gets hard when you're at the very top trying to decide which one to put where, but I love Xiao, especially coming from a typing that I didn't really like very much to being one of just the closest Pokemon to my heart. My second favorite Pokemon of all time is yet another childhood favorite, my favorite evolution, Vaporeon. Now, I'm not even a very big water type fan either, but Vaporeon has always been one of my childhood favorites. I always used it way back in Pokemon Stadium, way back in Generation 1. It was always so hard to choose between it and Flareon. I like Jolteon and have used Jolteon a bunch as well, but the real difficult choice for me was Vaporeon or Flareon. So I love it. I love its cute little ears and its frilly neck thing. The spikes down its back is awesome. The thick tail is the cutest part to me. It's just so adorable. I love the little flipper tail. And its little teeny, like, pudgy legs are so cute. I love Vaporeon so freaking much. So, yeah, I love its moveset as well. I've always really liked Vaporeon's moveset. So, yeah, that's my second favorite Pokemon of all time, Vaporeon. So now let's get into my favorite Pokemon of all time. A lot of you are probably saying, like, what? But my favorite Pokemon of all time is actually Crobat. I love Crobat so freaking much. Its design is really, really cool. I really like the design. But more than that, I love the stats, the moveset, its speed. Back in Generation 3 playing through, I had a Crobat that had like that I trained to have like a super, super high speed, and I just loved it so much. And even now in my Pokemon Black 2 Nuzlocke, we've got Cascade, our Crobat, which is one of our staples as well. And the thing I love most about Crobat is that you take something that so many Pokemon fans hate, like Zubats everywhere, and if you give it enough love and attention, it grows into something badass. And just that whole concept of taking something common and disliked and spending the time with it to build its happiness or friendship or whatever, and having it evolve into Crobat is just so awesome. I can't say how much I love Crobat. So it's out of 721 Pokemon so far, with even more coming in, us reaching over 800 with Sun and Moon. My current favorite is Crobat, and like I said, whenever I spend enough time with Sun and Moon, I will either make an update to this list with the new Pokemon involved, or just make a list of my new favorite Pokemon from Sun and Moon. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. So, like if you did like this video, comment down there, tell me what you thought of all this, tell me your favorite Pokemon. I'm really interested to see what yours are, what you thought of all of mine. Subscribe for more Pokemon and a ton of other things on the channel. I would say definitely check out the channel and subscribe if you want to. Follow on Twitter if you want to as well, and I will try to keep you updated there as best as I can whenever I post things, push things back. And I hope sincerely that you enjoyed this video, because I enjoyed making it. And I'll see you all next time.